Chapter 1, The Beginning. Kira starts regaining consciousness. He feels the strength returning to his body. He slowly gets into an upright position, still sitting on the cold, hard ground. He looks around. The room is dark. He's not quite sure what has happened. However, he does feel a throbbing headache. His knees are weak. His body is a bit hot. Overall, he's not missing any limbs, yet he feels weak. He slowly looks around once more. He sees the curtain slightly drawn back against the window. However, it is dark outside. Kira comes to the conclusion that it is nighttime. He slowly gets up as he leans against the wall. His strength is slowly fading. He looks around once more and finds the direction of the bathroom. He walks slowly, methodically, so as not to trip and fall. He puts his hand against the wall to give him a bit of strength to lean against. As he comes close to the door, he shouts, "Open." However, the bathroom door did not automatically open. He's a bit puzzled. He looks around and he realizes there's no light. He puts his hand on the handle and slowly pushes the door. At first, the door did not budge. He put more of his strength in, and more, and slowly the door clinked to the side. As he pushes the door open, he walks into a small bathroom with a shower and a sink and a toilet. He heads straight forward towards the sink. As he opens the tap, water starts gushing out. Kira feels somewhat relieved. He puts his hand out. The water is cold, but it feels good on his skin. He rinses out his face a few times, and then he suddenly feels an urge of thirst from his gut. He bends his head and puts his mouth against the tap, slowly consuming water. A minute later, 2 minutes later, 10 minutes later, Kira is still vigorously consuming the water that's gushing out the tap. He's somewhat surprised, yet he still feels a huge thirst from his gut. As he continues to drink the water, he feels his headache is getting a bit better. He still feels weak and slightly sleepy. He looks around and sees complete darkness. Another 10 minutes, another 20 minutes. More than 30 minutes later, Kira finally lifts up his head. He turns off the tap and he's satisfied at last. He slowly heads back. As he comes to the hallway, he looks left, looks right, and suddenly heads towards the right-hand side, towards his bedroom. As he comes to the door, once again, he stopped himself before he shouts open. He puts his hand on the handle and pulling slightly towards the left. The door did not budge. He has to once again use all his strength. Slowly the door moved. He walks into a small bedroom with a single bed, a small cupboard on the side. He walks towards the desk drawer next to the bed. Slowly opens the drawer. There's some protein bars, pocket knife, a headlamp, torch, and a picture. He slowly turns the headlight down, and he can see there is no power. He reaches in for the torch. As he presses a button, a light comes on. He's relieved. He looks around the room. His bedroom is still the same. Nothing has changed. He grabs a few protein bars from the drawer and starts slowly to unwrap the cover. As he slowly starts to chew the protein bars, he feels alive again. After protein bar, he feels more sleepy. His headache has not disappeared. As he slowly lies down, he consumes another. And more than 10 minutes later, he has finished all the protein bars in the drawer. He feels slightly better, yet still weak. He closes the drawer and turns off the flashlight. He pulls the cover over himself and slowly drifts into the dream. The next day, Kira is woken up by sudden scream, anger scrolling, and metal clapping against each other. He slowly gets out and sits up against the wall. He feels that the strength has returned to his body. He still has a slightly headache, but it's much better than what he felt last night. As he looks around the room, he realizes that it's the next day morning. He slowly gets out of bed, puts his slipper on, and walks towards the small window in his bedroom. He draws back the curtain as he looks outside. There are strange bodies wobbling about in the streets. He's puzzled. He looks up. The sky is still blue. There's clouds, and the sun is shining. However, after a few minutes, he sees there are still bodies wobbling around the street. There's no birds in the sky, and the street lights are all off. He wonders himself, the electricity is probably out. This is very rare in today's day and age. And then he suddenly sees, about 150 meters away down the road, a car door slightly opens. Kira looks in amazement. A middle-aged man slowly gets out of the car. The car only had 2 wheels on the one side, and the other side, it is slightly hovering above the ground a few centimeters. Kira realized that this is a quite modern camping car used to go through tough terrains. The middle-aged man, wearing some jeans and a closed t-shirt, looks around, and slowly, as he gets out of the car door, he picks up a blunt object from the ground. The man looks scared as he moves slowly across the road towards a shop. The bodies suddenly all stopped moving as they realize something's moving about. 5, 6 bodies turn their head towards the man that's moving towards the shop. They all start screaming and running towards the man. The man, in a split-second reaction, bolts towards the shop window. It is a plastic cover. He grabs the blunt object and throws his right arm as hard as he can through the glass. But the window did not crack or shatter. He continues to bang the glass. Nothing's happening. 2, 3, 4 times. As his face starts to panic, sweat's coming down his face and the back of his neck. He looks behind. There are 5, 6 bodies now coming within a meter or 2 towards him. He lets out a shout and turns his back towards the glass, and he throws the blunt object in his right hand towards an oncoming body. It slaps across the face. The body falls hard to the ground. He puts out his arm, trying to push back the other incoming 3 bodies, and he realizes that his resistance is fake. As he faints back, the bodies push against him, starts biting his arms, his neck. The man screams as he falls to the ground. Blood starts gushing out. These bodies does not let go. They continue to chew on his arms, his hand. As the man continues to scream, he looks to his right. The first body that he knocked onto the ground starts licking the blood that's coming out. Within 5-10 minutes, 6 bodies surrounds the man and starts eating whatever they can. After 20 minutes, there's nothing but bones that remains. These bodies slowly gets up and wobbles about to carry on their own endless wander in the street. Kira is amazed, surprised. He feels that his heart is pulsing. He quickly draws back the curtain and tries to recall what just happened. He's scared. His face is white. He's only an 18-year-old. He has never seen death before. He looks around the room and he suddenly realizes something. He quickly moves towards the hallway, heads straight down to the kitchen, past the kitchen to the front door. He looks through the eye hole to ensure there's nothing in the hallway outside of his door. He double checks the lock to make sure that it's all locked. He goes back to draw and close each curtain in the lounge, the kitchen, and then he slowly sits back in the lounge. As on his big and soft sofa, he tried to recall what just had happened. His body's just ripped this man apart, eating and consuming everything, his guts, his blood. Kira is terrified, but he does not know what to do. He tried to recall the last thing he remembers. He looks puzzled as he realized that the digital clock next to the TV is showing the 3rd of March in the year 3030. He thinks to himself, it's not possible. How can 4 days has passed since the last day of Feb? And he closes his eyes as he lays back. His headache is still faint, but he is trying to remember what has happened. On the last day of February, he was in his lounge, wandering about trying to go to sleep. Then he suddenly felt this vivid pain as he fall to the ground. He feels anger and pain through his entire body, as if 1,000 needles is piercing every single part of his skin. His insides are burning. The excruciating pain continued, and after 10-20 minutes, Kira could not take it anymore as he fainted and fell to the ground. The next thing he remembered was essentially last night when he woke up. His body was weak. But before that, or during that period, he couldn't remember anything. Kira slowly gets up as he felt a hunger in his stomach. He walks toward the kitchen. He sees there a variety of fruit on the countertops. He opens the cupboards manually and finds all the food that he can. There's some canned food, packaged proteins, snacks, biscuits. As he grabs everything he could, starts ripping off the covers, he starts eating and consuming everything in sight. He thinks to himself, well, if there's nothing else he can do, at least he can eat what he can and allow his body to process what has just happened. After an hour, Kira has consumed everything he could in sight, but he's still hungry. He's really, really puzzled by the change in his body. He walks close to the refrigerator and he opens the door manually. The fridge is filled with some food, chicken pieces. There's a whole cake, as well as various milk, fruit juice, and lots of water. He grabs everything he can out of the fridge and starts consuming it. And he thinks to himself, well, this feels like the end of the world. Through his life, he has seen various movies and some apocalypse movies. But now that he's experiencing it in real life, he is unsure how to handle himself. And as he starts consuming whatever food he gets his hand on, he starts becoming depressed and hopeless. After another hour, he's consumed all the food he can. He slowly wipes his mouth, rinses his hand by the kitchen sink, and he walks back to the big couch in his lounge. He sits down and he feels sleepy once more. He closes his eyes as he passes out slowly on the couch. And if all Kira can think is, what am I going to do next? End of chapter 1.